What's good, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of Sport Exposure Podcast. Today we have a special guest all the way from Chicago, Director of Player Development for WNBA Chicago Sky here with us. As you know, Sport Exposure is all about sharing our stories, sharing our experiences to inspire the next generation of student athletes, really creating a safe space for student athletes past, present, and future. So, tell us about yourself.
Well, first of all, thank you for the introduction.
Absolutely.
I'm grateful and I'm humbled to be here. Honored to be here. It's back in the Hampton Roads area. I'm Director of Player Development for the Chicago Sky. I played professional basketball 15 years in 11 different countries on 4 different continents. And that kind of led to me mentoring younger players during the latter part of my career, which kind of led me to the coaching space. And I retired, and one thing after another happened, and I was kind of conducting summer workouts in Philadelphia. I did some coaching in Iceland kind of before I retired.
Okay.
And here we are.
Here we are. Mm-hmm. Okay. So just get started. Sport Exposure is all about celebrating triumphs and learning from our defeats. When you think about your sport journey, what comes to mind when the motto is heard?
Well, I think that it should be like a colon or like a semicolon. After that, it should be like everything you said and then the Chaz Franklin story. My life has just been all about, honestly, just getting punched in the face 147,000 times and just finding a way to get up from all of that and still be blessed, despite all of that. So, I come from humble beginnings, and I was always an underdog and undersized, and come from, a community that wasn't well serviced, and a drug addicted, violent community in South Philadelphia, and family struggles, and one of those stories that you always hear.
Black community, right?
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
So getting into all that, talk about your upbringing, talk about where it all started for you.
I grew up in South Philadelphia in the 80s and 90s. Like I said, it was on the heels of the crack epidemic. So it took a lot of the Black fathers out of the community, out of the home. For us, basketball was like religion where I grew up. We just kind of drink the Kool-Aid in the sense of thinking that was the only way we could be successful. As I matured, I realized that wasn't it. But at the time, as a 10, 11-year-old, I felt like that was it. It was a violent community. I wasn't good at fighting. I was 2 and 43.
2 and 43.
2 and 43 in street fights. So I was like, all right, I'm not a fighter.
That wasn't your route.
Right, yep. I wasn't scared to fight, right? But I was getting beat up every other day.
Going, yeah.
So I got to do something else. As far as illegal activity, I didn't want to indulge in any of that. I've seen all the trappings. I've seen guys get beat up, stabbed, shot. It looked like it hurt. I said, "Oh yeah, I don't want none of that." So I'm gonna just play basketball. And so that's what I did. Yep. And that just kind of started my whole. I was one of those kids that walked to the store with the basketball. You would always find me in the court. We played on crates back in the day. This was kind of the pre-AAU days in Philly. So we were schoolyard babies, and that kind of just molded my. I guess even now, my personality, just the lessons I learned. Mental toughness, physical toughness. Philadelphia players, we were always known for having a chip on our shoulder, having to play with pride.
Right.
Being from my block, it starts out, you're representing your block, which my block was Siegel Street coming up. So like the one that Beanie Siegel, the rapper, was like named after. So we had a pretty... an active block, I'll say.
Real active.
Yeah, it was active. And we would play other blocks. And, that's how it kind of starts. And then you would kind of venture out, and then we would play other parts of the city. And so you get this pride. And I think I still carry that to this day. So
growing up in a community like that, a lot of student athletes struggle staying focused with so many distractions and so many things going on. How did you stay focused? Or where did you find that mental toughness at? Because it takes a lot of mental discipline to stay focused on what your dream is when you grow up in a community like that.
Well, I had a family with we weren't the perfect family, but I did have a lot of love in my family, like in my household. And some of the guys in our community, they didn't have that, right? And you could see the difference. So I guess the focus for me came from wanting to excel for my grandmother, wanting to excel for my mother, not wanting to be another statistic in the neighborhood. And then frankly, it wasn't hard for me to stay focused on basketball because I was in love with basketball. I was obsessed with basketball. I mean, I still am obsessed with basketball. So, I never really had a focus issue. It wasn't like I was grinding. It wasn't like it was this big thing that I needed to use to like distract me per se. I just loved everything about the game. So, it was easy to stay focused in that regard.
So how was your transition from high school basketball to college basketball?
Well, I was a walk-on at Hampton University here.
The real HU?
The real HU, yep. But it was a crazy backstory like most kids. I was a bit of a late bloomer, so I didn't even start varsity until 12th grade.
Wow.
Yep. And
so where did you play up until then?
I mean, I was on the team in 11th grade. I didn't play a lot.
Okay.
And I only started because a guy fell down and got hurt. So that's why I was a starter. And I averaged about 11 to 12 points a game. Okay. And I felt like, you know what? I should be D1. Like all the kids, 17-year-old me just felt like that was enough.
Right.
Right. I had some like other opportunities, Division 2 and 3 schools, but also like 17-year-old kids, I turned my nose up at, oh no, I'm too good for this. Right. So I decided to come down to Hampton University, unannounced. My godfather, he's an alumni at Hampton. And I came to tryouts the first year. Yep. And there's 150 guys that come to tryouts.
Really?
Oh, of course. Yeah. The whole campus was there when I was there at tryouts.
That's great. That's a football squad.
Yeah. And I got cut first year.
Out of 150?
No, they didn't take me. They took someone. I don't know who they took. I actually do, but I'm not going to name it.
Okay. We ain't got to go there.
Yep. And so they cut me. And then I went back home to Philadelphia over the summer. And God forbid, like gas, like worked on your game, like worked on my game and body and came back the next year and I made it.
So let me back up. When you went home for the summertime, what does that look like? You working on a game?
For me, well, we have all the summer leagues in the world. We have something called the Sunny Hill College League. What they did, which was like the best players in the Philadelphia area. We have something called the Big Five. So we have it's actually 6 Division I universities in the Philadelphia area. So all the players from the big schools come down. And we used to play at Temple. So that was a big part of it for me. Yeah. On the days where I didn't have games, I was playing in the schoolyard per usual. And our schoolyard was the best. We had like Division I players that played there, Philadelphia Hall of Fame players that played there. And then you had drug dealers and murderers that played there. All the same court.
So we forget about them. They good too.
Right, yeah, right.
It just shows another route.
Exactly. It's people with just broken dreams. Players that realize their dreams and their potential. So it's a mixed bag, but it teaches you how to deal with different people. So, we didn't have trainers. A guy like me, a player development coach, did not exist in 1999. So I just played a lot. Yeah, and that's how I got better.
And then you came back and made the team.
I came back and made the team.
So what was your walk like that afterwards?
So I didn't have enough money to stay at Hampton University.
Tuition is high.
Yep, tuition was high. Yep, is still. Yep. So Hampton kicked me out. Right, kicked out
for academics.
No, I was a great student. I didn't have a academic scholarship for whatever reason, but I think just part of it is just because we weren't like academically literate. I'm not coming from a college family. I'm like one of the few people that went to college in my family, like as far as when I was college age. Right. So we didn't I didn't know what like a FAFSA was or like that I have a 3.8 GPA and I'm poor, so I should be going to school for free. Right. Right. And you can bounce a ball. Like there are people that are going to pay for you to go to school. Exactly. I didn't know that. I was a member of the National Honor Society in psychology. So I was excelling. But I didn't understand how to leverage that into a free education for myself. So I ended up, back in South Philadelphia. Yep.
And then what?
I worked for a year at a place called Labor Ready. And Labor Ready is a temp agency, right? You wake up 4:30 in the morning, Philadelphia, so it's freezing cold in the winter. And you go and you try to get a labor job. So like picking up scrap metal, construction, but like you're turning the concrete, that kind of thing.
How old are you?
19, 20, young.
What did that do for you mentally? You literally grinded your way to this team.
Yeah, well, I think the first thing is it showed me that, hey, I'm going back to college because I'm not going to do this. That's
I ain't built for this.
Yeah, I'm not built for this. That's one. And then 2, even with my job now, like through my career as a player and even as a coach, you have bad days, theoretically. But I always refer back to those days and say, yo, man,
can't get no worse.
I was waking up 4:30 in the morning, walking in 15-degree weather. It sounds like one of those old grandfather stories.
Yeah.
But I really was. My friend and Khalil and I, we would go every morning, and you're competing with like all the junkies and stuff in the neighborhood because you work one day and then they pay you cash that day. $6 an hour. So
you competing every morning you wake up?
Every single day. Yep.
Were there some days where you didn't have a job? You didn't get a job?
Yeah. Because you got to beat out all of the junkies. So if you don't get there, it opens at 5. If you're not up at 4:30 walking there and like in the line, you might not get a job that day. So you had to beat them all out because they're trying to get a fix. I'm trying to like, just be able to eat.
So you did that for just a year?
Maybe half of the year. Mm-hmm. And then I finally got a better job working at a gym.
Okay.
So that was like heaven for me. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So from there, how did you get back to basketball?
So I ended up attending a university called Edinburgh University, which is a Division II university in Pennsylvania. One of my mentors, he had some connections there, and they ended up taking me there. So I was there for 3 semesters. And then I ended up going to another school after Edinburgh, but that was like a crazy story.
And that's why we're here. But let me back up to the year off, the gap year. Mm-hmm. What were you doing to stay up on your game? Or were you?
It's still just playing. That was consistent with me. It's just like a way of life. So by 19, 20 years old, I didn't know anything outside of basketball. Mm-hmm. So that's what we did. I would work in the morning, and then when I would get off of work, we would just play basketball the rest of the night. We find little rec gyms, little dingy gyms in the city that we play in, and that was just what we did.
Did you know you was going back to school to play ball?
I did. Yep. I never thought for a minute, you know what, you're done with basketball or you're done with college. I knew that I was going back to school. I didn't know how, but I knew I was going back. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so how did you make it to this college?
So I went, my coach, my high school, mentor, his name is Mr. Bill Williams, and there was another guy named Larry Waiters. They run a youth program in Philadelphia. And they recommended me, and I went, and I was there, and man, so I'm there, right? I'm there. And I had to just kind of get reacclimated to college again because I was a worker for a year, and it's just a different vibe altogether. Yeah, it's different. But I also excelled academically because I was a worker. So I'm like, oh, this is sweet in a way because you don't got to do what I got to do. All I got to do is go to school and get 3 meals a day. And
light work.
Go to parties with my friends, right, and be on the team. I'm cool. Yeah, this is easy. Yep. Mm-hmm. So that's how it went for me. At least starting out there. Mm-hmm.
Did you play ball there?
I did.
How was that?
Good and bad. Like the bad was ugly.
Let's start with there. Let's start with the ugly first.
Start with the ugly. Mm-hmm. So I got back to school and I promised my grandmother. I said, well, I'm going to see if I can get a 4.0 GPA because I want to really prove to everybody that I'm smart and I'm back.
That's a strong promise.
I know, but I like a good check. But I did it, right? I promised my grandmother and I promised her and I got it. And that was my first, I only went for 1 semester. So we came home for the summer. And the day my mom came to pick me up from school, when we got back, we got evicted. Right. So that was one situation. And then, so I moved back to my grandmother's house. So it's just she and I living there. Mm-hmm. And she gets diagnosed with cancer. Now, my grandmother was the love of my life. So she's got cancer. We're evicted. My mom and they're going to move somewhere else. And then my cousin, who was like a brother to me, the guy who raised me, my best friend in a way, he was shot and killed in my neighborhood. So this is all in a 2-month span. Right. So we get evicted. My grandmama has cancer. My cousin, brother, he gets murdered August 4th. You got to go back to school 2 weeks later. I'm like, oh, man. And I go back to school, and I work really hard that summer. I was in really good shape, trying to hold it together. And then my grandmother died while we were in preseason. So at the time, I didn't know what was wrong. Now they call it depression, right? Back then, I didn't. I just knew, I don't know what's up with me.
Right.
Right. But I can't sleep at night. I'm exhausted during the day. I lost a bunch of weight. I'm not playing well for obvious reasons. I'm concerned about my other family back home. And my coach, he just, he wasn't very empathetic during that time. I remember a quote, him saying, I don't feel sorry for you. I just want to win basketball games, right?
I've heard that before.
Yeah, yep. So that was his thing. And I went home to bury my grandmother. And I thought about not going back. I really wasn't going to go back. But before she passed, I promised her that I would graduate from college. And that was the only reason I went back. That was it. And so, I went back and then I ended up transferring to another school just to get my last year in. Because I didn't want to kind of like be around them anymore. And I don't know, that was it.
It was a toxic situation is what it
Yeah,
sounds
for
like.
sure. Yep.
How did you get through that season, or did you?
That was tough.
Because, and your story reminds me of a whole lot. Like, I know mine specifically. I lost both of my grandmothers in 2-week time frame in preseason. My sophomore year. And looking back on it, I didn't have time to. I think that I just pushed it to the back and I just never dealt with it. Because it's preseason.
Right.
You don't have time for that. I was terrified to ask my coach to go home.
Right, yep.
Because I could lose my spot. I could fall back in the line. And those are things that, as athletes, student athletes, that is not talked about enough. Right. Because no matter what happens the day before, the night before, the week before, you're still expected to perform.
Right.
To win games.
Right.
Because that's what's important, right? So talk about that season for you mentally.
It was a strain on me. Physically, psychologically, mentally, the whole nine. But it was one of the greatest blessings of my life in hindsight. Like, it wasn't intended to be a blessing. I think it was intended to destroy me, to be honest, right? Like it does so many young people. But my faith in God grew so much during that time, right? Because once you realize, like, nobody's coming to save you, one, and then two, when I realized not only are they not coming to save you, right, they don't even care that you're down, like, then I reverted back to like this other person, like the kid that I was, or like the fighter, the kid that grew up like in that environment. And I said, oh no, F that. No, I got something for y'all. I'm gonna be back. Watch this. Right. So I started being like rebellious in that way. So, first you're like the victim. All right, I'm the victim, woe is me. And I am a victim. I should have had support, right? But I didn't. And then once I get past that, or I guess got past that, then my other side came out. So then I wanted to wage war. I don't know who I was waging war on.
It'd be like that.
Yeah, but I'm like, no, I'm coming back.
Somebody gonna get it.
Right, yeah. So I wasn't playing a lot. I was like the fourth point guard, right, on the team. And some of those guys were good, but at the end of the day, like, I had enough talent to play 15 years professionally. So I don't know that I should be fourth at a Division II university, right?
Right.
And then I just start putting into my head, you know what? I'm gonna become a good basketball player because they don't think I can. And that just drove me. Like, obsessively drove me.
Obviously, if it got you 15 years in the league, right, anywhere.
Right, yeah.
So transferring to the final school, third school, right? What was that like?
A miracle. So I'm a senior. I'm 5'10". I really don't have any stats. Who's going to give me a scholarship? Nobody, right? So I'm going to transfer. Don't know where I'm going. Summer's winding down. I still don't have any offers, no scholarship, no nothing. And now school starts. We're in the add and drop. You can add classes. Not bad. School started already.
And you still don't have a school?
I'm in South Philly, sitting here. And all of my loved ones said, oh, just go back to that other school. My godfather went and called the coach. Like, I didn't want him to, but he did it. And the coach, no, I'm not taking him back. Right. And me, I'm all rebellious somewhere, not even know it's going, yeah, well, I don't want to come back. I know what I'm going to do. Right. And one day before add and drop, my coach, Robert McCoy, Roberts Wesleyan College, it's a small Christian school in Rochester, New York. He calls me and he says, yo, man, I don't know if I can even get you in. And I don't have any money for you either. But if you want to come try, it's a day and a half to register. So I got on a Greyhound and took a 15-hour bus ride out there with $85 in my pocket, a trunk. This is like my actual life. A trunk, right, with some clothes in it, and a fitted hat, a Chicago Bulls fit. Back then, you had the big that used to fit over the eye. I had that. Yep. And I went, And I get up there and he says, hey man, well, we have rolling admissions, which means that we might can get you in. But what's your financial situation like? And I'm like, yeah, like dirt poor. I
have nothing.
Yeah, sometimes, we didn't have heat. So my mom opened up the oven, sleep like that. I sleep with a hoodie on my head every night because there was a time where I slept in a place with no heat. So, that's how my financial situation is. And he says, okay, well, I think I can get you in academically because your grades are good. I said, but I don't know about the money. So me and him are wheeling and dealing through the financial aid office. And then one of the kids, he says, man, God must love you. I said, well, why? He says, because one of our players had a meeting 2 days ago and he has to kind of he's sick. Something's wrong with him, right? So he's going to lose his scholarship. And the amount of money that you need to qualify, I guess to start at least, is what he's going to give up. So it'll work to the dollar, right? And we don't have a dorm for you, but we can throw you in a freshman dorm and you can sleep with this little Asian guy named Thomas, right? If you want, right? Not in his bed, but kind of right next to him.
Yeah.
If you're willing to do that. And I was like, yep, sign me up. Yep. So, and so I was in college again.
Talk about staying up on your academics, because that seems like it would open other doors for you when the finances didn't. And a lot of student athletes don't understand the importance of the academic portion of being an athlete because it gets overlooked. Right.
I was always blessed academically. I went to Central High School. So Central High School in Philadelphia is known as the smart school, the smart kids. So I was always labeled as mentally gifted. So school never was an issue for me. It came easy to me. The problem with a lot of our athletes is they pigeonhole themselves and they're not understanding. When I graduated from high school, they were giving out awards for the smart kids. And I didn't go to class. I cut class all the time. If I went, I would sleep. And I still got really good grades. I didn't do the best that I could. But when I found out they was giving out money, this really translated into money at graduation. They were giving out envelopes, that kind of thing. And I was like, wow, I didn't understand that if you get good grades and you're poor, I didn't know what a refund check was. So had somebody told me, hey man, the better you do in school, this can be a $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 check for you, man. This is pretty good for you. I just didn't have any clue. So for younger athletes, student athletes today, if you're a dumb basketball player, you turn the ball over a lot, right? But to make unwise choices, and I'm gonna be frank, to be dumb in a classroom, and by dumb, I don't mean that you can't do the work. I mean that the resources are available for you to get the work done, and you choose not to do it. And it's easy when you're an athlete.
Preach.
They're going to do any and everything to make sure you're successful. And so when people are throwing you that line and giving you the opportunity, right, to excel on multiple levels, and you choose not to do it, then I think you're dumb. Because I think you should do it.
And ungrateful.
And ungrateful. Yep.
Definitely ungrateful. So your final year in college, you made it in by the grace of God, barely.
Barely.
And you're in a freshman dorm.
Freshman dorm.
With Thomas, right?
Thomas. 2 feet away. It was like jail. Like his cot. And it was I could touch his cot from my bed. And he could touch mine.
And how was that?
Terrible. I used to bully him. I'm sorry. I shouldn't say that.
Oh,
but I did.
Thomas.
He was a freshman.
Was he on a team?
No, he wasn't on a team. No, he was just some guy.
Oh, you had a regular too.
Yeah, he was just some guy. You know what? Remember the AOL thing where it used to the
AIM?
Yep, the AIM. He'd be on that all night, right? Now I gotta go. He's a freshman, so he's happy to be there. I shouldn't say I bullied him, right? But I was mean. Look, I was going through a lot.
I apologize
to Thomas, if you out there, my bad. I'm sorry, my bad. Right? So no, he'd be on AIM and they want to watch movies. They're freshmen. They're 17, 18. Right. I'm 37 years old at this time, right? I'm not really 30. I'm 23.
That's a big age gap. Yeah.
I'm ready to get out of here. He's just starting. So his friends are coming to the room. They want to watch DVDs and all that. And I'm like, yo, y'all gotta go. Like, see, I gotta condition in the morning. I gotta do this, that. Y'all gotta leave. He's like, oh man, we want to watch TV, and then you just give him the face, like, no, you're not watching TV.
Not tonight.
Not tonight. Not ever. As a matter of fact. So, yeah.
So playing, did you start?
I started.
Did you go crazy last year?
I did pretty well. We stunk. We were terrible, right? But I won MVP.
Sometimes.
I won MVP, right? And God always has a plan. So I played fairly well, and there was a guy there to watch his niece play. Division II school, the women's game and then the men's game, like that. And he was there to watch his niece play. He played in Europe forever. In Italy, and he was there to watch his niece. Just randomly, I'm watching my niece play. His name is Roosevelt Bowie. Played at Syracuse, like a legend at Syracuse. 6'11" center. Watching his niece. And he watches our game just because she's taking long to get dressed. And he see this crazy dude. And I was like wild back then. Like very...
I was going to say, please elaborate on wild.
Emotional. Like I played with my heart in my sleeves.
Okay.
So... it stood out because it was like a Christian school. It was
oh yeah, they was talking about you.
Yeah, predominantly white school. 10 black kids on campus.
10?
10, yeah, 10.
Were you one of the 10?
I was one
11?
of the 10. Yeah, I was one of the 10. So not me and 9 other black students. I could jump, so I could dunk, and I'm not tall, so people like that.
Yeah.
And I would dunk and tell people that I dunked and
go
gesture,
crazy.
Swing on the rim.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do cutthroat signs, get technical. I was all the way South Philly at the time.
Okay.
All the way in a Christian school. But anyway, he noticed that, right?
It wasn't hard to miss.
Yeah. I was acting a fool that time, but I was young.
Right.
And turns out he ran a combine for players for nobody's to try to find a way overseas. And he was a director of this camp and combine at Syracuse University, Roosevelt Bowie. And that's why I say God orchestrated it, because out of all the schools to be,
I'm happened to be there.
And he just happened to be there. And he just happened to see me and invited me to the camp.
And how was that camp for you?
I went crazy at that camp. I'll say that. Sometimes I played bad in college, up and down, but at that camp, I played very well at the camp.
Was that always a dream of yours? Was that the goal?
Absolutely. It wasn't to play overseas. It was to play in the NBA. Right. Like pretty much everybody from my community and from my generation. That's just what it was.
So when did it hit you that you weren't going to make the NBA?
It still hasn't hit me. I still think I got a chance.
Oh, man.
I'm retired. My knee hurt. I'm 42, right? I'm like, man, maybe if I just get back in shape one more time, right? But no, it's just like, I don't know. It never really dawned on me like, yo, you're not going to make it, because I was so focused on my career in Europe at the time. And then it started going well, especially in the second half of my career in Europe, like overseas. So it never was like this come to Jesus moment. Like, yeah, you failed, right?
Yeah.
I didn't feel like that because, where I played overseas, I like different levels, middle level, some high level, some lower level, right? I was treated well for the most part. So, and I was happy too. So I wasn't like, oh, I'm so worried about what I missed out on. I was happy.
So what it sounds like in your story, you're used to overcoming adversity.
Absolutely.
And you said early on that you've had a story that you've been punched in your face a million trillion times. Ooh. What do you think that your lowest moment was as a student athlete?
Lowest moment as a student athlete.
And how did you overcome
it? Lowest moment. It was when, my grandmother died. My cousin died.
An eviction.
I'm not playing. I'm in this school in the middle of Pennsylvania. I'm a city kid. There's like nothing to do around here. And I just remember walking to practice one day, like walking up, like dread, like you're walking up and it's like 3:00, like there, practice start 3:30 and I'm walking in and I'm supposed to get taped, but I'm not even gonna get taped. Cause like you just are like not caring,
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and I'm like, And I was just thinking about, man, I should just leave. Like, why? I don't have to deal with this. I didn't, but I was like, that's what I felt like. I was like, man, I don't know. So I guess that one particular moment was the lowest moment that like I could still kind of like feel it. Like when I think about it, walking up to the field house, I'm like, man, I'm really about to walk back to my dorm, put my stuff in my bag, get a Greyhound, and just go back to Philly. Yep, I remember.
Would you say that moment keeps you going to this day?
To some degree, yeah, because I mean, not because it was so low, but because it also created somebody that was willing to go toe to toe, you know, to fight you for every inch. So it wasn't a pleasant feeling, and I don't recommend that people endure some of the things that I had to endure, but which is kind of part of my purpose now, is just trying to push the culture forward. Like I try to coach. Like it's like when you don't have like some people grow up without a father, right?
A lot of us,
right? I had a stepfather, for a good portion of my life, but initially I didn't have a father, right? I've only seen my father 2 times in real life, ever. The last time was February 8th, 1992. I remember this. Like, it's crazy how you remember this stuff, right? Yep. And so if I ever have children, sometimes you become a great father because you do just say, hey, you know what? Just don't do what he did, right? And so as a coach, I try to coach that way. Hey, don't do what some of these people did to you, right? And so from that, it did help me in a way because I didn't know God had a plan. It was molding me to be this person who I am today and how I relate to the players today.
Right. So as a student athlete, we learn a lot of lessons that translate over into life after sport and even professionally. So some of the things that you learn or you grasp that you really hold on to that still are with you to this day from being a student athlete?
Relationships. Relationships. Some of these games, you're not going to remember how much you scored. Sometimes it gets foggy. Yo, did we win? Like, did we not? No, we won because remember, right? But the locker room, the relationships, the friendships, it kind of trickled over to my career, like overseas. Some countries I played in, they were not considered great countries. I played in Saudi Arabia when ISIS was running around cutting people's heads off. It was a very dangerous place, theoretically. I mean, not for me personally, but that's what was going on the other side of the country.
What was that like?
Amazingly, one of the best places I ever played in my life. That's what I learned. Like, judge each case individually. Because I went to Saudi Arabia, and they were some of the nicest, most inviting, welcoming guys that I've ever met in my life. And I felt more in danger in South Philadelphia than I did in Saudi Arabia. And they were like, no, don't judge us because of the terrorist groups, man. Like, that's a small pocket of dudes going crazy. But for the most part, like, we're not like that. That's, you know what I mean? Like, somebody could say the same about me. Right. Oh, well, you're at-risk youth. Well, your family's this. Well, you did this. You did that. Da, da, da. And I'm like, yeah, well, I'm not like that. Right. So that's what it taught me. Take people for face value and actually try to like take the time to get to know people and build these relationships. And that's the thing that you'll miss the most and you'll cherish the most.
You mentioned something I want to highlight on is when we say relationships and networking, a lot of us think that we're just talking about outside relationships. We never talk about the networking across lateral. And a lot of those friendships and relationships, I know for me personally, a lot of my teammates are now in places that I'm in places to help them or vice versa. And those are things that we don't necessarily take advantage of as a student athlete, because when you get to a job and you get to the real world, you have to learn how to work next to people next to you, right? And you got a million different personalities from different places. And playing basketball, you have a team of males or females from all over the world, and you have to figure out how to make this work. Tell me how that has translated into the real world for you.
Well, I mean, even here, like with the Sky, we're coming from different places, right? It's a diverse coaching staff that we had. We had our head coach initially that we had for the beginning of the season. He's from Memphis, Tennessee. So he's Southern, right? We come from a similar background, but I'm a Northerner, so we're different. And we had an associate head coach who was from Turkey, right?
Wow.
It's different.
And y'all are in Chicago.
We're in Chicago, right? So
Midwest.
He's Turkish. We have another woman on the staff, assistant coach. She's from Flint, Michigan. Black woman, WNBA, Tanya Edwards. She played, for the Minnesota Lynx. She's in the Ring of Honor, all that stuff. So she's Tanya, right? Midwestern. And then we have Ann Waters, 6'6", first pick in the draft, 2000 draft, WNBA, Belgium. So we got two black dudes, a southern black guy, a northern black guy, a black woman from the Midwest, a 6'6" European woman, a Turkish guy, and then we have Johan, who was the assistant coach, video coordinator, assistant coach. He's from France.
Oh, wow.
Right? So we're
Talk
like the United
diverse.
Nations. Yeah. Our crew. And then we got another guy who worked video coordinator. He's from Turkey. His name's John, right? So you got to be able to get along with people. And we have so many differences between all of us at the time, but also so many similarities too. And I think that's what it taught me, how to be able to interact with different people. How does the French mind think about basketball? And he's thinking, wow, how does the American mind think? And just certain things you learn, just through your interactions. So it's been a blessing for me.
For sure. Mm-hmm. So as your career came to an end, you said you did 15 years. 15 years. How did you know you was done?
Oh, final year, it was 2021, technically a plan. So
that was not too long ago.
Yeah, it wasn't too long ago. I was 40 years old. I was like the oldest guy in the league. Mm-hmm.
How did your body feel?
Great, but old. You know what I mean? Great. But you would just do stuff. You'd be playing and you just strain your calf. And you're like, man, I wasn't even running all like that. I should be. Right, yeah, that's tough.
That's something we don't talk about because I strained my calf in high school and I thought I was going to die.
That's what I mean. It's not, just little knickknacks. Yeah. And we went to the finals and we lost. Right. And I swore we was going to win and we lost. Right. And as soon as we lost, I just felt it. I said, that's it. But it wasn't like I was like, oh, well, I'm quitting. It wasn't like that. It was like, it's complete. And I was like, yeah, I don't have anything else to prove as a player. I don't feel like I want to get after y'all anymore.
15 years professionally is a long time.
Yeah, it was a blessing. And I mean, nobody thought, they didn't think I would get not even ever a chance. So nobody felt that I would get 15 years.
Especially with a story like yours.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I wasn't I always say basketball don't owe me a thing. I'm blessed. I met a bunch of great people. I had a bunch of great memories. I did things there's a rapper, right? His name is Styles. You know who Styles P is?
Of course.
Yeah, Styles P, right? And he said, it was a bar that he said that I used to always resonated with me back in the day. And he said, I got bigger than I thought I would. I did stuff that I thought I could. I used to always say that part with a little extra thing, right?
Pop your stuff.
Yeah, to myself though, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, man, God has been so good to me, man. I done played on TV. You done played in front of all these people. You done kissed babies and shook hands. I done won championships, lost championships, been in bench clearing brawls, had fans run out I had a full career, right? All these different countries.
And then some.
Yeah, right. So I got more out of the game than probably what I put into the game. But I put my all into the game. And it just paid me back exponentially. So, I'm just blessed because of that.
And those are priceless experiences. The ball can take you a lot of places.
Right.
It could do a lot of different things for you.
Right.
And that right there is a blessing, a lesson in itself. And it sounds like you took full advantage of that. Mm-hmm. And especially seeing so many different parts of the world.
Right.
And you being retired 2020, that's 2 years now.
Yeah.
What is life like for you now?
Well, busy because,
you're still involved.
Yeah.
But you're on a different side now.
Right. You know what? The strange thing is, I don't miss it one bit. I do not miss playing basketball because I just love to see the women on our team. I love to see them do their thing. I just love it. Like it's like when you're that old head, right, out the group, and you know, yeah, man, you know, like okay, let's say some of my little cousins and stuff. Let's say they go on to prom, right? They go on to prom, and they 17, they 18, and they got their little prom date, you know, and she looks nice, and you the old head now. You had your run. When I went on the prom, my date looked nice. Now I'm 42, right? I just want to see them do their thing. It just brings me great joy. So I don't miss it. I like, in a way, I live vicariously through them, right? I want them to just do their thing. I want them to just excel and just get everything they can out the game. I want them to get and maximize, especially with them being women too, right? So, and that resonates with me too, because, you know, people say, oh, you coach like women's basketball? And I'll be like, no, just basketball. Like trust me.
Basketball is basketball.
It's basketball. And if you ever was around WNBA basketball players, like up close, like personally, you will come to find out quickly that you are probably not a better basketball player than, I don't know, name somebody in the WNBA. The only advantage that you would have is probably that you were, you know, born with more testosterone. So maybe you're just bigger, but you can't shoot the NBA or WNBA 3. You can't keep, like if you're a regular guy, like I work out, you know, with our players pretty often. We play one-on-ones and stuff. And I'm like, I wasn't in the NBA, but I was a pretty good basketball player. And if I'm having problems with them, right?
Give you the work.
Yeah. I've had some issues with some people, especially when I was retired, right?
Right.
I mean, because they're professional athletes. So, I mean, just when I see them, we had 2 players on our team, and they're not like super popular, so maybe you haven't heard of them. One could dunk off the vertical with 2 hands. And another is 5'11", and she could dunk.
I love that.
And you never heard of them. It's not like the game is evolving.
Quick.
Right.
And it's not enough coverage. It's not enough.
No, not at all. And you know what? They have this chip because they're like, I think the WNBA is underappreciated.
Very much so.
Right, for sure. So my thing is this. The level of spice
women come with a lot of that.
In a WNBA game, like they think that it's like Angel Reese being like this, and she is. But trust me, I'm on the bench. No,
it's a whole lot more.
Oh, it's all of them.
And it's different for each player.
It is. I mean, they are going to war. You want to see some people go to war? Let 2 group of women go to war. Like, I mean, war. So I love it. They be getting it on, right? And I'm not thinking, oh, she's a female. I'm seeing 2. It's confrontational basketball, and that's how I grew up. So they talking about this, and they putting period on the end. Yeah, you can't guard me, period. And I'm like, damn, period, and all that. So I love it. You get me going. I love it. I absolutely love it. I love it.
So how do we get to coaching women's at that? How do we get to the WNBA?
Well, first I coached a year at Millersville University, which is a Division II school near Philadelphia, like not too far from Philadelphia, right? And that was women's basketball, okay? And in the interim, I was still, you know, Philadelphia area, and Kalia Copper, you know, she's our franchise player for Chicago Sky, Philadelphia player. You know, we already had a pre-existing relationship, but you know, she was home. She didn't go overseas this past off season. Just, hey, you know, I'm home working out, so on and so forth. Can we work out? I'm like, yeah, let me check my schedule. Yeah, I think I could find some time for, you know, the finals, 2021 finals MVP. I think I could fit you on my schedule, right?
I think we can make that work.
Yeah, so we get to working out, and we just had a good connection. We approach things in a similar way. You know, we like to have a good time. We like to work hard too. And I saw some things that I thought would help her as far as taking the next step in her development. And she was just a joy. And she taught me a lot of things too. Just about enjoying life, having a big heart, having a kind heart. Like, she's a better human being than me because she don't tell people no. She'll be working out, this, that, and the third, and 50 kids will run up, and she'll stop and interact with 50 kids. And I know she's tired. I know she don't want to do it, right? So we started working, and then the Chicago Sky took notice, the general manager and the coach, I said, oh man, what's going on? Like, well, I'm working with this crazy bald guy from South Philadelphia, which is another thing. I'm from South Philadelphia. She's from North Philadelphia. Mm-hmm. Historically, we've been mortal enemies. So that was different.
Right.
But we have the same Bible verse tattooed. Philippians 4:13, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Mm-hmm. It means something. Sometimes I think God just brings people together at certain times for whatever reason. Her grandmother was a pivotal person in her life. So was mine.
He knows what he's doing.
And we lost him, right? So that's part of the drive. Because I know what it is, right?
Right.
And so next thing I know, we're taking a trip with the Chicago Bulls in the sky, going to Paris in January. So I get to meet more of the, of the team, not the players, but just like the front office.
Right.
And, he offered me a job. James Wade, the former coach of the Sky, he's with the Raptors now. He offered me a job and he said, oh man, can you help some of the other players too? And I said, well, is it going to be a good fight? Like, we're going to be trying to like not win, but like, are we going to try to beat other teams? Like, really, you know what I mean? Because it's like a difference.
Yeah.
Right. And he was like, yeah, I want to. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm in. And he was like, no, take a week to think about it. No, trust me, I'm in. And I moved to Chicago 3 days later.
Wow.
And that was it.
So this is my favorite part of the conversation because I'm a women's basketball player. Mm-hmm. So there's a learning curve when it comes to women's sports sometimes, from being in a male-dominated field, just period. But you have to sometimes adapt to coaching to women. Mm-hmm. What have you learned so far?
Wow.
Because it's a lot to learn about us.
Yeah.
That I feel that is not talked about, one. And two, people don't take the time to really gain that knowledge because there's a lot of athletes or there's a lot of coaches that go from coaching men and jump over to women. Mm-hmm. It's not the same.
No, it's not the same.
It's not the same at all.
No,
Talk
it's
about
not the
that.
same. The first thing that I think is that as a coach, even in player development, right? It's so important that you read the room on a daily basis. Very important. Particularly, come on, it's a WNBA, our team, most of our players are African-American women. Mm-hmm. Okay? So when it's 8:30 in the morning, I am from the culture. I'm from the culture. So when you hear, I'm over it. I know, yo, man, take the foot off the gas a little bit. Give her some, you know what I'm saying? Because I'm over it at 8:30 means something happened. Something's going on. Why are we over it? 8:30, we're just getting here, right? What's going on? So the first thing is reading the room, right? The second thing is, I know relationships are important with whoever you coach. I think it's more important on the women's side, maybe even more so than the X's and O's. Just because one thing that I have learned, like when you have a good relationship with women will ride for you in a way that your homies won't.
Yes, we will.
So we have a player named Ruthie Hibbert, right? And she just had a baby. Now, when I first got there, like the baby's like 2 days old. His name is Xavier. He's like the top 5 baby ever created. He's like the most cutest dude, and he's huge now, right? Top 100 percentile of tall babies in America. We talk all the time, right? Me and Ruthie. And we're talking, and she's coming back after having her baby. And we're going through our stuff because she's got a rehab with me. We're going through every morning. We're going through stuff. And it's hard. It's hard. You have a baby. It's hard to just be a regular person. You're trying to be a WNBA player, right? And she come back 87 days after Xavier.
Jesus.
And when I say we went through hell and high water, me and Ruthie.
I believe it.
Laugh, literally all of them. Laugh, cry, setbacks, all of those. And my main thing that I always told Ruthie was this. Ruthie, I guess the male lion is the king of the jungle, theoretically. But have you ever seen the female lion if somebody comes across one of those cubs? Golly, she's the most ferocious. He might be the king, but the most ferocious.
We ain't playing about the babies.
Right. And then you know what? There was the thing. Her training picked up. And then we would play one-on-one. And then I would insult her doing one-on-ones. you should just continue in motherhood. Like, why would you want to be a basketball player? And then during that time, it was a ploy, it was a mental trick to push her to a point where she got angry at me and she started competing in a different way, which is what I wanted. And then during that competition, she realized, you know what? I'm back. But she didn't know. I faked her out a little bit. She thinks she's smarter than me. I think I'm smarter than her. But so we have this thing every day. And I think with women, it's just so important to find out how you connect to them on a level outside. Just all players, but how do you connect? They're not an X, they're not an O. It's somebody's daughter, right? And I think about that. Remember, when you're talking to these players,
that's a good point.
Somebody's daughter. It's some dudes. You know what guys will do? I don't know if they make these men anymore, but they used to be men and brothers like, yo, man, not my daughter. Yo, not my sister. So just remember, when you're coaching these women, you're coaching somebody's daughter, and deal with them accordingly. Push them hard. Treat them like a basketball player first, right? Because they want their basketball player first, right? But always keep in mind how you talking to somebody, how you treating somebody, some of these games that sometimes coaches play. You know what I mean? Just like all across the board, not like with the sky or anything, but just generally,
period, right?
You're dealing with somebody's daughter. Don't screw them over. Your job, and then me, I'm a bit old school. So your job is to push them, love them, protect them, help them become great basketball players, and help them to try to embarrass anybody else that stand in their way when we're in the middle of competition. And that's it. And that's how I coach women's basketball.
Was it a struggle for you?
No, I loved it. It came easy to me because, I already had the year in college, and then I had summer workouts for years, for maybe 15 years, 10 years, something like that. 10, 12 years. And I had women, like girls that I trained before. I helped coach an 8 and under girls team before, AAU team. So I was familiar with girls.
Those women are blessed to have you.
Oh, well, I'm blessed to have them. Yeah, I'm blessed to have them.
So what else are you learning about the league? Because the WNBA is, I would say, as a former women's basketball player, I know it's overlooked, underpaid. And we're still fighting for recognition. Right. Coverage. And that also plays a part in the day-to-day. So what have you seen so far? It's been 2 years?
Yeah, just 1 year. Just one season.
Year, yeah. I'm sure you've seen a lot on this side.
I have.
Just about the sport industry, period.
The first thing I would say is it's growing, but I think people need to also kind of just keep in mind that I think the WNBA today is where the NBA was in like 1970 or something like that. So you got to keep that in mind too, like the rate of growth, right? It takes time. The product to me is incredible. They're building, they built a super team in New York, and then you have the Aces, and then you have us, right? And then you have Connecticut. You got all these people that are fighting for this goal, right? One of the things that I don't like. There's a lot of complaining about the travel, like charter flights, this and the third. And my thing is, we're walking through the airport, and I'm with player whatever, well, not two. Let's say Dana Evans. I'm with Dana Evans, 2-time All-American, Louisville. She would be mad if I said it like that, right? And she's one of the top 145 players in the world. Cool. And then some idiot from Dunkin' Donuts in the airport mopping the floor. Nothing wrong with mopping the floor at Dunkin' Donuts. I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
It's just Joe Schmo, right? Instead of just showing love, hey, man, I really like what you do, man. Keep balling, sis, do your thing. That's not the approach guys take. It's like, oh, man, I would do this to you. Oh, you can't beat you this, that, and the third. And I'm like, hey, man, it's just so disrespectful. Man, I'm big on respect. So I'm like, pay homage, show love. She's literally one of the best in the world. All of them are. They're in the top 145 players in the world, right? You're not in the top 145 dudes working at Dunkin' Donuts, right? Nothing wrong with working I go to Dunkin' Donuts every day, but I'm just saying, show love. Here you go, sis, keep doing your thing. Man, keep it like that. And so part of that gets to the travel. Because we in general population with the travel. You know, we in the airport, we going through, you know, TSA like everybody else, and sometimes these can cause issues. So people talk about that. Me, sometimes I'm just happy to be around. You know where I come from.
Exactly.
I'm like, well, we on the plane? Oh, cool. Count me in, right? But, you know, I would like to see our women have the best available, whatever that is, because I think they earned it.
For sure.
And then you mentioned salaries, right? It's growing. It's growing. It's growing. So that's a great thing. But from
we got a new team on the way.
New team on the way. But that's going to be amazing.
Yes.
But I can't wait for that. And they're talking heavy already. We're going to win the championship with the... See, it's getting spicy.
Yeah.
We're going to win it immediately, right? So now that's a thing. But our players, many, I think 9 of them are playing over in Europe right now.
Because they have to.
Because they have to.
Not because they want to, because they have to.
I played overseas. I remember how I felt when the season ended. I can't imagine having, after I finished, and let's say wherever, in Finland, let's say, right? Come home April. Now I got to go hard. Training camp, April, May, June,
season.
July, August, September, trying to get to October to win the finals. That's hard on your body. That's hard on your mind. That's hard on your lifestyle. It's hard on your family. That's hard on you never having roots, like putting roots down. It's hard, right? And I can't imagine. So I think our players are stronger than all the guys playing over in Europe.
Because they have to be.
Yeah, they have to be. So they're like surviving, right? I mean, they're paid very well, like overseas and stuff, and they're paid well in the WNBA too. Like all things considered, right? But I would just like to see the league get to a point where they don't have to do that if they don't want to. You know what I mean? So that's just I think that's the consensus. Yeah. You know, and I think that day is coming. Hopefully sooner than later.
For sure. And let's talk about the expansion. That's huge. Because as we spoke about before we got started on camera, a lot of people get drafted and don't make the team.
Right.
And it's kind of like, for me being a women's basketball player, you look at the people that have every right to be on the team. They get drafted at a decent number, decent pick. They go through the training camp and don't make it. That kills a lot of girls' confidence.
Right.
Because it's like, dang, she was an All-American. She did everything. She did that. She crossed the checks in every box. Get there, get drafted, the glory, the fame. She don't even make the team. Yeah. And it's because we don't have enough spaces. There's not enough space for us. So this expansion is huge for women's basketball, period. Because it's just as big as men's basketball. Right. Or any other sport. It's just not enough space for us to be there. Right. And talk about seeing that. Like, you get a first row seat to it.
Yeah. Oh, it makes me sick to my stomach. Because of the emotional roller coaster. I've seen players. We had a player playing in the Final Four. Like playing in the Final Four, that's huge. That's bigger.
I ain't never make it there.
Right. Yeah, me neither, right? And they play in the Final Four and gets drafted. And has a solid training camp. And, you know, deserve to make the team. However, you're going up against player B, who also not drafted, but coming from Europe, a little more seasoned, a little taller, maybe a little more dynamic, depending on what you like, right? And so the head coach, he's got to pick. Do you want to go with, what we just saw on ESPN, like the draft, like holding up the jersey, your mom and dad, like that? Or do we want to go with who you think give you a better chance to win today? And both of them deserve to make it. That's the crazy thing. That's why it made me sick to my. Both of them deserve to make it, right? Both of them can help. Both of them are WNBA level because I'm with them every day. And one of them don't make it. And it was the one that got drafted, right? So can you imagine that? Like, can you imagine the roller coaster? Final Four, top of the world, draft, double top of the world, training camp, doing all right, having big games, all of a sudden, back home. Just up, down, all. What does that do to a player psychologically? I think expansion is necessary. There are way more talented players than what we have slots, obviously. But it also speaks to the level of competition in the WNBA. Like, you can't just be there because of your name.
No.
Like, you got to be there and you got to be a killer. And you got to show. That's the other thing, too. You got to show it. Or you'll be out. Straight up. Like, I've seen, there have been a number of players just over the past couple of years that are, like, popular. Some of them are popular because maybe how they dress. Some are popular because of how they look, right? And then you just look up one day, you're like, oh, what happened to such and such? And they be gone, right? Because at the end of the day, you got to prove it every single day in the WNBA. So, but that makes it great because when you looking at the players, you really looking at like pretty much the best, like day in, day out. You know what I mean? But it's also heartbreaking because there are other people who are like on the cusp, you know, and they just don't make it just because of a numbers game. So, I mean, we need expansion. Bad.
Real bad.
Mm-hmm.
How important is it for you to be fighting this fight for us? I'm going to say us as women, women basketball players, because it's a fight that we don't see. Mm-hmm. Of course, we see it on the news here and there, gender equality, flights, pay, but it's so much deeper than that.
Yeah.
So how important is that for you to be on the staff to really literally be going to war for us?
It means the world to me. I like to consider myself a very loyal person. And then I've built relationships. Like, this is like, for the average person, they are watching these struggles from afar, right? Or there's some troll on Twitter or Instagram. Oh, well, they shouldn't do that, right? And I'm really seeing these people, these players, these daughters, these women on a day-to-day basis. And I'm seeing them with the ice on their Achilles because maybe this player has Achilles tendonitis, which is an overuse injury, because you got to go hard from April to September, October in the W, but then you got to get a week off, and then you got to go hard again from October all the way to the next April. And then if
just
you're
to
like,
feed your family.
Just to make it work, right? And if you knew the passion and the work that these women put in, and you're literally there and you're watching them get injections, right? And you're watching what do you call that little pen therapy? What is it called where they stick the pens in? Right. The little needles in.
Yeah, I can't think of the name, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
Acupuncture.
Yeah.
Right, I watch an acupuncture and I'm like, that look like it hurts to me. I'm cool, right? And you're watching them get this treatment, and God bless all of our athletic trainers in the W, right? Our mental health professionals that work with the team, right? Because these women need it. But I'm on the inside, and I'm watching them go through these things. Now, make no mistake about it, basketball is a blessing. It's not like it's a privilege. You don't have to play like if you don't want to play, right? But for those who do have the passion and ability to play, I wish that they could, have an easier path, because I'm watching them suffer through things every day. And they are warriors. Like, I mean, I would even dare to say that I'm like, man, are they tougher than the dudes in the NBA? I don't know. But I know it's hard to play year round. Yeah, I know. And I just call balls and strikes. And I'm like, yo, man, these women tough, man. I don't know if I could play year round. It's hard, right?
Yeah, for anybody. Mm-hmm. So what's the best part about coaching WNBA?
The competition. I would say I still, I get a kick out of confrontational basketball. Mm-hmm. They're like, some of them are cool with each other. The NBA has a lot of buddiness to it, the modern NBA. I don't think the WNBA is like that at all. I think some people are cool with some people. Maybe they have they share an agent, or they're both under the same brand, so they cool. And then some are frenemies, and then some are mortal enemies, and some are on site. Like, when I see you, it's on site, and that's when all the periods and all that stuff go off, right?
Say we spicy.
Yeah, right. It's really, and then like, so that's what I enjoy, especially like sitting on the bench. There's things that you can't hear, right?
I know they going crazy.
Yeah, you can't. I mean, you just can't hear it because you're so far. I guess the cameras, they're not mic'd up.
Right.
But I'm there. And I'm blushing some of the things and I'm like, I'm from a rough, I heard everything, right? Growing up playing basketball. And I've said everything and had everything said to me. And this was more than that. they are wild, right? And so I love that part for sure. Just pure competition, like 100% at each other's throats, like not in a negative way, but we're going to see who the best is for real. And it doesn't just extend to, like, it goes beyond the basketball court too, right? It goes to Twitter beefs. It goes
my
to
favorite.
You see Vegas, you see what all the stuff they're doing.
That's my favorite.
So it goes with, all right, we're gonna compete at everything. Here you go, game day fits. So we're gonna beat you. We're gonna play basketball better than you.
They coming in fly.
Yep, I'm gonna dress better than you. I'm gonna tweet better than you. Because when women going at it,
yeah,
they going at it. Yeah, they mean it. They want to just rip your soul out of you, right? And so I like that. I guess for a little, I don't know, maybe I need therapy. Maybe I need therapy. I want to see people, right? But
it's a different side that a lot of people don't get to see. That's why I asked.
It's basketball, like at its purest, most competitive form, for sure.
So finally, as we know, Sport Exposure is here to tell sports stories, to expose the things that we've gone through for the student athletes to come. Yeah. What would you like to expose about basketball, about student athlete life, or even the WNBA to other women athletes or aspiring professional women athletes?
What I would like to expose, or at least just touch on, is that we need to remember, like as coaches, as those charged or even just blessed with the opportunity to lead young men and young women, we need to remember that they're human beings. They're somebody's son, somebody's daughter. Sometimes it feels like they're an X and they're an O on a whiteboard. They are your next promotion. Like, people don't talk about that. Right.
Literally.
Literally
and figuratively.
Like, when you're in college, right? And see, I have something, it's this thing I heard called enlightened self-interest, right? It's this phrase called enlightened self-interest. And what it means is that win in a way where everybody can win, right? And so one of the things that always bothered me about, especially college sports, pro sports too, just sports, right? Is that so many of these coaches are browbeating these kids. Sacrifice all that you've ever worked for, right? For a bunch of people that really you don't even know. You just met these people, right? Like for real, right? You don't know.
Honestly and truly.
Sacrifice all your goals, your identity, everything that you built up for the betterment of this team, right? Cool, because I'm all about team. And you're going to need the team to win, right?
Right.
But at the same time, if you're at, nowhere state university and the players come together and everybody sacrifices and y'all win a championship, the coach is usually not at nowhere state university the next year. They're in the Big Ten, right?
Exactly.
So now they're a millionaire. You're averaging 2.7 points per game. You're not going overseas. You're not getting drafted. Now you're going to be an accountant, right? And you had no intention of being an accountant. So what I would like to see more coaches do is take a vested personal interest in these players off the floor, really get to know who they are, and try to coach and deal with them in a way where that everybody can win. So, when I'm coaching, that's how I try to coach. I think that's kind of, I'm not perfect, but, at least trying to make it work out that way. Try to make sure everybody can get what they need, right? Try to make sure if you're a college coach, your best players are trying to go to the W if they can, if that's what they want. You might got two other players that can get overseas and hooking your other players up with good internship. They don't want to play basketball. They're done with this. All right, well, let's make sure we use basketball or whatever to make sure they're winners, not to come out of this thing needing a psychiatrist because, you beat them down for 4 years. Right? I ain't really with that. And I'm not. I can be intense when I'm coaching. I'm competitive like everybody else, but it just needs to come from a good place. And I don't feel like coaches always do that.
And that's why your position is so important. Player development is something that is, like I said, it's fairly new. And it's literally to support the human
Right. Mm-hmm.
It's you're a player first, but that position or that title is literally to support the human in the athlete, the human in the student athlete, the human in whatever it is at whatever level. And it's so, so important from even with my experience in student athlete development, player development, same thing. It's so important to have those positions because we just started creating them 2 years ago.
Wow. You're right. Wow. Wow.
Imagine what we went through before they started being created.
Oh, I know. Yep, I was in it.
Right. And I just want to say thank you. Thank you for you being you. Thank you for the push. Thank you for the fight because I know how hard it is on that side. And thank you for your time and thank you for your story.
Oh, well, thank you. It's been my great pleasure.
Absolutely.
I really feel like you should have like some sky.
You know
what? Up here.
I should.
Other than that, like it'll be okay.
I do. We're going to have to add that to the studio, y'all. We'll add that for sure. Y'all catch us on the next episode.